Yeah, no, with that, Colin, let me ask you this, right? So, and Josh, again, you don't have to ask this question, you're more than welcome to. Something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. Colin, do you think that it is possible for someone to be truly objective, right? Or do you think that we kind of have to just acknowledge or accept the biases that we have, for lack of a better term, and kind of be conscious of them and just work around them when we're trying to dissect information that we're taking in?
So as a general rule, no. Nobody can be perfectly objective. You can have isolated pockets of thought where you think as objectively as possible, but nobody is immune to biases in their lives. That's how you become a person. I don't think that's real, but I think the sooner you recognize that you cannot be objective fully, and you recognize that you do have biases, you'll be much more apt to recognize them and to be able to understand when your biases are playing into something you're thinking about. But yeah, no, that's an insane thing to think. That's like a control group in a science project. That's not
Right.
It's purposely not. It's purposely isolated and cannot be brought into like objective reality.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a real thing. But it's a good place to like. It's a good goal to strive for, because that way you'll always be trying to think of as objective as possible. But no, that's crazy.
Yeah. Do you have anything you want to add to that?
Oh, I would agree. Like, we're all like sociological beings, and so your experiences will entirely affect your like objectivity. And while you might think that you can be objective, the reality is that you're going to have background information that totally affects your judgment. And I always hate that, like, whenever you're like news articles, like, oh, we're objective, and it's like, that's
Right.
impossible. Like, everyone's going to have a spin. It might be minor, it might be major, but you can't, look at something and have an objective opinion about something, because
Right.
Yeah.
you are your experiences, and that's going to affect your worldview.
Right.
Yep.
No, I think that's really good. And the reason that not the reason, but I think those are great answers. And when I was thinking about this a lot lately, after I watched the Matt Walsh documentary, right? Matt Walsh, Daily Wire. They just did a
What was the, like,
documentary.
What is a Woman?
What is a Woman? I just watched that, and as I was done, Jordan and I watched it together, and I said, I appreciate that they didn't try and be objective. Like, they were not veiled about the way they feel about this situation. They were honest about it. There was no deception, but they were open about the way they feel about it, which I appreciate, right? When we first started the show, we were huge on, like, we're objective all the time. Like, we're just going to be that. We're totally objective. We're not going to let any spin get into anything. And I think it just took us time to realize that we can't do that, right? And now I take pride in the way that we present information objectively, present raw information, right? Past that, our discussions, we are open that we have biases about it. We feel the way that we feel, and that's the way that we're going to discuss them. We think, as a show, as individuals, that freedom and liberty is the way to go. So that is how all of our opinions are going to lean. And when we're presenting things and we're reading things, we'll even go through and correct ourselves. Like, oh, I can't say that because I'm adding something to this, and that's not what they said. Like, that's not what this article says. We'll be very clear about, okay, this is opinion time now, and the further we get into this, that's what I find that I respect most about individual news companies, is their ability to acknowledge their biases and not say, like you said, that they're being objective. One of the morning shows we listen to is done by ABC. It's called Start Here. They have like do you know this podcast? It's like a
terrible.
20-minute. We listen to them from NPR, Axios, ABC. There's like several different left-leaning news companies that all of their morning podcasts, we'll listen to them all as soon as we get to work. And the Start Here one, there's always an ad for the George Stephanopoulos show, whatever it is, his weekly show. And his ad is like, we're taking the biggest stories and cutting through the spin so we can present this.
I love
it's like,
that.
you worked in the Clinton administration. Like, you worked in her campaign. You can't try and lie and say that you can even attempt to be objective, because you're not. And that's where I lose respect for all these corporate news companies, all this type of shit, because you're still trying to present yourself as objective when the entire world, the whole country in particular, knows exactly where you sit on a particular issue, And if all of them, CNN, all MSNBC, Fox News, all of the corporate news companies would just be honest about their spin, I think they would be more successful.
Yeah, because I think if you look at bias in general, right, and objectivity, you're essentially talking about the difference between fact and truth. Like, fact is a fact is a fact, period. A string of facts together can mean something that can build you a truth, but at the end of the day, a fact is true.
Mm-hmm.
But
That's interesting.
but the truth comes to what you apply that fact to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, you may, like a news outlet like ABC or something like that could just give you the facts and then just be done with it.
Right.
And that would be as objective a news source as you can get, but nobody does that because
Not
facts
anymore.
facts alone are without context generally, and then they don't really mean anything other than a random statistic or some shit like
Right.
that. So, yeah, I think it's a problem, especially in the corporate press, because they've allowed their truth to just completely take over the facts at that point. And then there's nothing but unobjective, biased opinion
Yes.
spun and woven around what started as a fact somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Question though is, do you think that could we even go back to, like, it's always like this kind of idealization of like the old Walter Cronkite days
Oh,
where
yeah.
he came on, he said what the news are, it's like blank happened. He didn't give his spin and then he left. Do you think that we could even go back to that news? Like, is there an appetite that the American people want that, or is it just like, is that gone?
I think it's gone. If you ask me, I think it's gone. I don't think society as a whole could stomach that now, especially. I don't know if we ever could have, and I don't even know if that was actually
The truth.
case back then. But then again, I wasn't around back then. I can only go off of, who knows how long news has always been spun one direction or another. I would imagine it's always been that way because there's always
Right.
going to be people behind it. And
Choosing-
somebody decides
Right.
that this is the story that's most important to talk about today.
And that even that shows what stories you talk about show your bias.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that as a people, we are more conscious of that fact that individuals don't have the ability to be objective. So I don't know that we as a society would trust an individual person like we did back then,
Yeah.
because someone is going to know, even if you start to trust him, like, but he's a piece of shit because he definitely is lying about something. He definitely has some type of feeling about something. What is he leaving out about this? What did his writers leave out about this? Like you said,
Yeah.
even if it's not that person, someone who's preparing this, like, you watch Breaking Points?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Breaking Points, we fucking shit on them all the time, right? And one of the deals is because at the end they're always like, we're trying to build a new mainstream. It's like, okay, you're missing the point. Like, we don't want a new mainstream. That's not the point. That's completely counter to what new media, YouTube, all of this shit is doing. We don't want a new mainstream. We want you guys to be yourselves on a show together.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to watch them on, like, I think the production quality is, like, important. But, like,
yes.
I do think that, like, I do like the ability to be like, hey, this is the topic. Let me watch a 10-minute video about it.
Yes.
I think that's a good thing. And I do, like, I hate at the end of every episode, it's like, I don't want that. Like,
Yeah.
It's like, just do what you're doing. It's fine.
Yeah. And I just wish Sagar would just realize that he should be more himself and stand behind his own opinions a little bit more than I think he does. Crystal's lost it in my mind. Crystal Ball, one of the co-hosts, if you don't watch the show, she has
Check out
just
Breaking
gone.
Points.
Yeah, check out Breaking Points. You can find them on YouTube. There's they put out their kind of like their main segments and stuff on YouTube.
Hashtag not an ad.
Hashtag not
Just
an ad.
for the YouTube
for God's
gods.
sakes. Yes.
For the YouTube gods.
Plus, I wouldn't want to give them that much attention, to be honest. As somebody that's been trying to make a show for 4 years now, I look at those types of things way differently than I used to, and I judge them a lot more than I ever used to too for all sorts of different things. Like, I love their high production quality. I also think they probably don't need as many people involved, and it would probably bring them a little bit more down to earth, a little bit more if they were a little bit closer to the actual production. It might make what they talk about a little bit more important to them, and they might be a little bit more truthful. But I don't have respect for people nowadays that are afraid to say what they want to say, or to just put out like a little teaser like that, and then just to be like, hey, I want to get my 2 cents in real quick, but then I'm not going to defend it. I'm going to let you steamroll over my idea and all that. If you have something to say, silence is a lie. So do not do that. Otherwise, you're selling me something, and I don't trust you anymore.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, I still listen to their show damn near.
Still watch it all the time.
all the time.
Yeah.
But, yeah, they haven't gone off the deep end necessarily, and I know what they are now, so it's easier to watch because I know what I'm going to get. Mm-hmm. But it's painful to watch sometimes.
Yeah, I think the one thing I will say though is like I do think there's a place for new media. One of the things I always dislike is there's never. I feel like they're always kind of complainy and never solution oriented.
Yeah.
Like Breaking Point's a great example. They always talk about the problems.
Yes.
But they're never they're never talking about candidates or policies that could fix said problems. And it's like, as a voter, like I mean obviously I need to be informed and stuff, but it's just like how far can we get by just bitching about the system? Like we do that all the time. And like everyone knows that America has a ton of problems, but like what can we do to fundamentally fix it? Who are the candidates that makes it so like we can get in positions where we don't have to pick Biden or Trump in 2024 again?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like it's just because everyone's just gonna be like it's crazy that like that's what it's gonna come like it's probably gonna come to.
Oh, God,
because
I
it's
hope
like
not.
we haven't it's like you can't pass
Right.
policy by just complaining all the time.
Yeah.
No, and when you do, some of the few times that I feel that we have heard solutions from them, Cristobal in particular, it's stuff like the last time when she talked in depth about the oil industry, she's like, we should just nationalize the whole thing. That's not a solution. Like, you can't just take everyone's companies away and just decide that's the solution to the answer.
It's also
like,
super long term.
Yeah, you can't. It doesn't. That's not how it works. You know, we're just going to change the whole way this system has worked the entire time this country's existed. Like it's not that simple to just nationalize an entire industry in a deeply, deeply capitalist society. You know, so I just don't.
Yeah.
It's like the flippancy about it too. It's like it could just happen overnight. You know, Biden would just nationalize the gas industry, and then it would be no problem. It's like,
Yeah.
it's
Just
not
end the
that-
filibuster and it'll solve all the problems.
Shit like that.
Yeah.
Well, if you'd ended it, it would be no problem. But it's not that simple because 10 years from now, you'll be bitching about the same fucking problem.
2
on the other
years from
side.
now.
Yes.
Just like you bitched today about the lack of filibuster with judicial nominations. You bitch about it here because you're not getting what you want, and it's a problem
Yes.
for you, when it was the same party that took it out. I don't remember when it was the Harry Reid era.
Right.
But when they went in, they used the old nuclear option, and then just
So
Mitch
epic for
McConnell
something
was
so
like,
lame.
all right, word. Well, 10,
Right.
10, 15 years later, we are set, man.
They'll just stack 3 of them.
Yeah.
And all through the Trump administration, all the Democrats had to say was, "Oh, Trump is just ramming through all these judges." You just made it this
Yeah,
way.
you made
and
it
when
easier.
you did it, Mitch McConnell said, "Don't do this. Don't fucking do this because
Yep.
it's going to be a bad idea. You're going to hate what happens when you're not here anymore." And where the fuck are we? We now have Trump federal judges all throughout the country. You say we got
For
three,
life.
For life.
We got 3 Supreme Court justices. What are we talking about? And you have nothing to say. You don't have any solid ground to stand on and complain about the status of the current circuit court system because you fucking made it this way.
Yep.
You constructed, you contrived the situation and the circumstances that allowed this to happen. You literally don't have any license at all to talk about this.
Nope.
You made it this way. So I don't care. Like regardless of whether or not I agree with these people because I don't fucking know them, you don't get to bitch about it because you made it this way.
Welcome to the salt of the streets, coming at you every week with this food for thought. Hope you ready to eat everything.